This is too vulnerable.
No, it's okay. Um, it's a testament to your poetry. Welcome to Being Vulnerable, episode 15. I got a very special guest for you today. Um, I'm Carpal Tonal, aka Chris, or the opposite way around. This is Brenna, and I'm gonna have her introduce herself to you.
Hi, my name's Brenna. My artist name is Brenna Marie Music. You can find me on Spotify and YouTube and all the streaming platforms. My song, A Piece of Art, is up there, and it's a song of just hope for the world and all of our personal stories. Like no matter what we're walking through or what hardships we're going through, that there's like always hope is the message of the song, and that we're all pieces of art and that we're all connected and all woven together.
It's a beautiful song. Yeah, if you haven't heard it, audience, definitely go listen to it. My interpretation with that song was like you were speaking to someone saying, "You are a piece of art."
Yes,
And being called a piece of art is such a beautiful thing to be called. I mean, if I don't know who you wrote that song about, if it was about a specific person or if it was just about yourself, but being called a piece of art is just like it's so beautiful.
actually, the story behind that song is the day before I wrote it, I was feeling like really down. And I was like wondering like what's my purpose? Like what was I made for? And like feeling sad, and I needed something to like turn it around and like remind myself of my calling and like what I'm creative for. Um,
Yeah.
and so that song just kind of flowed out of me whenever I was like wanting to consciously shift that. Like like it just started coming, starting with the verse, like this, I know you have a good plan for me. Like even through the hard things I'm walking through, like there's still like a good plan for my life. Like there's still a good purpose for me. And it's kind of like you might not always feel it, but the song is like a reminder that there's still like goodness in store, like whether it can be felt or not at the time. It's like kind of an anchor of like truth, to just like remind someone even when they're like at a low point, to just remember that like you have a purpose. And then it goes on to say, actually, the part it starts out with anybody out there feeling alone, but that part is actually the bridge, and it wasn't meant to be at the very beginning. And it wasn't written that way, but I felt like releasing it out into the world, that was the kind of message I wanted to like release out into the world, is like if you're out there feeling alone, sing this song out loud. Like because like you're not alone and you are a piece of art. That bridge really resonates with me a lot, because I've had like a chronic illness for several years now, and for the past year or two, I've started like people in my life have come into my life to kind of like pull me out of my shell, my turtle shell. That's the next song I hope to release, is a song about turtles. But haven't gotten to it yet. Um, but also I've been trying to nudge myself out of my turtle shell, like even if I'm not feeling good, like um, sometimes I am feeling good, and no matter how I feel, like I'm choosing to take steps towards my values, which is connecting with people, music, art. Um, One time somebody in my life like shared wisdom with me about like a lighthouse metaphor, that like even if you're going through like struggles, like it could be chronic illness or symptoms, or it could be like pain or sadness or anxiety, that all those things are like stormy ocean waves, but that your values are like a lighthouse. For me, a big part of my lighthouse is music and art and connecting with other people. So if I'm ever feeling like lost or just overwhelmed by struggles in life, like I just try to remember those and focus on those, or even when I'm inspired, because they just feel like my purpose and what I'm meant to do. And
Did you get a chance to watch my musical?
yes, I
So
did
the last
just
song, Your
just today.
pain is a pearl. Your pain is a
Yes,
pearl in the shell of a riddle.
I love that line.
Yeah. Give a meaning to your suffering and the
Yeah.
it's an unceasing remittal. Like because, it's the same thing how you're saying the turtle in the shell, that's what the pearl in the
Hmm.
oyster is.
Yeah.
And but they don't see the beauty until you open yourself up and allow yourself to showcase this beauty. But if you
Hmm.
don't treat if you don't treat your suffering like it is something to
Yeah.
be shared, then you're internally processing it and then you're just keeping suffering. But if you just take your suffering and put it into a piece of art or something like that,
Yes.
and then share it with the world, you're actually taking
Hmm.
that out of you. And then the
Yeah.
way, just like how a pearl is like one of the most valuable things in the world because it is
Hmm.
the one of the rarest things to find because you have to find a oyster
Yeah.
that created it. The
Hmm.
aspect of turning that into something for others.
Yes. A mission.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's what my mission in life is to take everything that I had gone through in my past, all this pain, hurt, trauma and stuff, and
Yeah.
be able to deliver it in a way through our, that's my meaning.
Yeah.
Because if someone can find some sort of positive message or anything out of my art, or just find some sort of wisdom or anything, like,
Yeah.
then I have done my job of that's my purpose.
Yeah. Just to like resonate with others. Sure hope.
Yeah,
Different people definitely unlock new worlds in us, like draw out new inspirations and new things.
yeah. Um, I've always felt like a turtle myself. Um, I've always
Yeah.
been trapped in a shell
So that.
of this hardened shell that I had to create for because growing up in a very kind of rough, you know, bad neighborhood, I had to
Yeah.
have a shell, and then I had to keep who I truly was inside that shell, or else
Uh-huh.
it would be the thing that was attacked. And then anytime I began to open up a little bit, poke my head out, getting
Uh-huh.
attacked, I would I just, it, yeah. And then all I would be is that shell, which the shell that I had to put on was like the gangster, toxic, masculine. Like I had to put on the shell of being tough and all this stuff. And I
Uh-huh.
mean, I learned that, yeah, what I was doing is probably the strongest and toughest thing that I could do instead of
Mhm.
being, leaning into this world that my circumstances led me to, which was you had to you had to fight to survive where I grew up. Um,
Mhm.
and if you were weak, you're getting bullied or you're getting um, pointed at as one of the targets to be like, oh yeah, like go bully that guy so you could get our um, like the gang life of they always pick out the weakest person and then send their like little gang members to go bully or just fight the little person or the weak person. And this was my first acting gig. Was I had to act like I was
Mhm.
crazy and I had to act like I was a gangster. That wasn't who I was, but
Yeah.
I put on that act as my shell and it kept me from being eaten, stabbed,
Yeah.
all the stuff, like how was it for you growing up? Like, why do you feel like a turtle too?
Well, the song that I want to release, the turtle song, kind of talks about it in a like easy to understand, concise way,
Yeah.
like in short. But like whenever I was like little, I wasn't shy. Like people nowadays they know me as like quiet and shy, like except for maybe people on social media know I'm a chatterbox. But like back like in person, I'm starting to get out of my shell a little bit, but I can still be kind of like timid. But back then, no. Like I was like so bold and like it was easy to make friends and like loving and creative and like had all these ideas and I didn't just have ideas or dreams or fantasies. Like as a teenager, I started like dreaming and having fantasies and like imagining things but not putting them into reality. But as a kid, like I brought those things to life. Like, you know,
Yeah.
like if I had an idea, it was happening. So, but then like as a teenager, like I moved and I got isolated. I was homeschooled, which in some ways was a good thing, but um like I think the part that was hard was being more isolated. And I also lived out in the country too, so like both of those things together. Um I wasn't around people a whole lot. And except for like a few events a few times a week. And when I was there, I didn't really feel like I fit in anywhere, like especially as a teenager, like all the groups I was at, like, maybe if I could go back with my personality now in those same situations, um, and that's going back to that reminds me of another song that I want to write called Time Machine. That's like if I could go back and change things, like I would. And like one thing, if I could go back to then, I would go back and maybe like, make friends and not be as like shy
Yeah.
or afraid of what people think. Because I think it might have been easier to make friends if I had had a different attitude, but I was just so in my turtle shell and
Yeah.
didn't really feel like I belonged anywhere, um, especially with people my age.
Yeah.
And for me, that actually changed later on after I got a chronic illness, which was really like traumatic and painful in a lot of ways. It happened right before I became an adult, like at 17, um, which was kind of a hard time for something like that to happen because it was like when I was just supposed to be starting out my life and like getting independent and stuff, but then all of a sudden like it's like a wrench in the plan and
Yeah.
but it helped. Like one silver lining was that all of a sudden it was easier to connect with other people. And I think it's because it kind of broke me open to the point of like I started to discover my purpose and my dreams and my passions started being refined through what I was walking through. And also, like, I stopped caring what other people thought as much. But at the same time, like, a deeper empathy towards others was forming inside of me too, because of like walking through like pain and stuff. Like, it helped me have like, a deep, like, sensitivity for others who are suffering and in pain and want to bring them hope, like, when they're going through dark times, no matter what kind of times they are. Like, it might not be exactly what I've walked through, but like I can relate to feeling low and I can relate to feeling like there's not a lot of hope. And I can relate to a song or a book or a poem being that thing that is
Yeah.
light. lighthouse in a moment like that, you know? Like songs have lifted me up so much. Like the mind body connection is amazing to me that like having like like positive emotional experiences can like positively benefit like well-being too. Like it's all interwoven together and I want to become like a mind body healer because of that possibly.
A
At least
lighthouse.
yeah, a lighthouse, at least by doing creativity, but
Yeah.
possibly by being a counselor or doctor too. But I haven't decided yet. I know I want to be like do creativity for sure. And the other, I still need to like pray about that and kind of soul search on it if that's, you know, what I'm meant to do or not. But I'm definitely interested in it.
You are trying to be a light for others, which is what I would want to be because I
Mhm.
didn't have that when I was young. I didn't
Yeah,
have a sense of belonging because I was mixed race. I wasn't brown enough. I wasn't white enough to be in part of
yeah,
these things, and I was just so I the only people that accepted me was the nerdy crowd, and so I was
yeah.
a comic books crowd and all that stuff, and
Uh-huh.
but I was an athlete, so I had my shell was the athlete shell, which was different than where I was growing up in elementary school. It was like, an hour away from where I was actually living, so my sports life was kind of separate.
Yeah.
And it gave me this sense of like not knowing where I belong because in the sports place, I,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't being who I truly was because I was learning from these coaches, the authority figures that tell me to like not cry and not be a baby and being called a little girl for so long just from the athlete side that I
Yeah.
put my shell that I put on was um the one that everyone would accept in sports. So when I was
Mhm.
playing sports, I was the leader, I was the mentor, I was the one who would rise other people up.
Yeah.
And I had to not show any pain or weakness, especially if I was like hurt. Because the first time I got hurt, like badly, my coach was like, "Why are you crying?" And it was like, "Because I fractured my wrist. That's why I'm crying." But I didn't say that. I just
Yeah.
had to be like, "Suck it up." And then they set me back in. Literally, this was in
Goodness.
middle school. They set me back in with a broken wrist because I
Yeah.
was the quarterback and I couldn't. So I was like played with a broken wrist for the rest of that game until my parents took me to the hospital that after that,
Uh-huh.
and they were like, "Yeah, you fractured your wrist and you should not have kept playing on it." But that's what I had to do to try to keep my belonging that I was feeling within sports. But
Uh-huh.
outside of sports, within school, it was like I couldn't find a community at all. It was um
Mhm.
it was detrimental to the way that my whole future went on of like having to put on a shell just to find belonging, even though that wasn't who
Yeah.
I was. And I know some of that has to do with just the male toxic masculinity thing. I was never able to talk about these feelings, not even with my
Got
parents. I mean, and this was being a brown person. We didn't go to therapy. We didn't have counseling. We were just told to, rub dirt in it and keep going on with your
it.
life. And I hit that in college too, when I first went to college to play college football. So out of high school, I went to play college football at Mesa State, which was it's a university out here in Colorado. Um, my mom was I was 17, so my mom did all the like the college applying. Like I went to college as a 17-year-old playing football with
Mm-hmm.
24-year-olds. Um,
Yeah.
I was so underdeveloped, but she actually she did the extra due diligence and got me into the best dorm that there was. It was the brand new dorm, and
Mhm.
my roommate's father's the same thing. So, but we were put into this dorm where it's like where all the rich people live. Like all the rich people's kids go there. Like literally Monica Potter's son was our neighbor. And we like
Mhm.
I don't know if you know who Monica Potter is, but actress in Con
Um,
Air and Modern
I'm not
Family.
very familiar with
Well,
film.
basically she's a top level actress. And then like down like two doors down the daughter of the person who invented Under Armour. Like, so, but they put the two people of color in the same room in this entire building because we got the lottery because our parents fought for it. And because of that, though, we were treated like the poor people because we weren't the rich people. And we were just like, honestly, it was luckily that we got put in the same room because we were able to find belonging within each other. But the fact
Yeah,
that no one around us, no one in this whole dorm accepted us and gave us belonging.
that's hard.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like our bond was solidified there, and because
Mhm.
we both were just the ostracized minorities, literally, the only two
Yeah,
people of color, and it was a yeah, I mean it just me and him both had that in our high school, so it was just like, oh, this is how the world works.
mhm.
Not knowing that there was actual places where we could belong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hard to
Um
find places to belong. I wonder if that's a universal longing, that longing to belong, like really deeply belong, not just like kind of or because of putting on a show, but like to like belong just as is, you know?
yeah. So I when I lost sports, it was because of injuries and I couldn't doctors said I couldn't find sports anymore. And then I found art.
Mhm.
Um through that all, I ended up in film school. And in film school, I was I was 26 at that time. Everyone everyone else around me was 18. All
Yeah,
of the freshmen because I was just starting over and I never had done film before because like my school was not they couldn't afford film equipment, so like they never taught film, but everyone else who I was around went to all the private schools that taught film and stuff and
yeah,
immediately was an outcast because not only my age, but because I hadn't done film before. I just came from a theater background. I enrolled into the theater program at that school, and then they dropped the theater program before my before it started.
haha,
So I just got through into film without ever knowing anything about film, and it was a different
yeah,
language. Film is such a different language than theater, and like no one invited me to their sets. No one casted me in their acting roles. No one wanted to be on my set. So my first 2 years, it was just me. I was except I found one other person who was the one other person who was over 21 and
okay,
kind of me and him were both kind of the ostracized people. We didn't have all the same classes together, so we were like
huh,
um we were both the outcast, and there was one other outcast person, but we didn't connect with him until like the junior year. Who,
mhm,
come to find out, he was older than us, so like he had the same thing, and he was the other person of color in our
yeah,
school. So we our first 2 years of college and film school, it was like we had to do everything by ourselves. Like that we didn't have no support while everyone else was helping each other and making all these films already and like I would audition and I mean I got one acting role my sophomore year within their films, but I was the villain. I was the creep and I got I got typecasted as the villain and the creep, like throughout throughout that the whole school. Like it was only till after that when I
First,
expressed this that someone finally casted me into a romantic role, that the one role I wanted to play. I dealt with that as a as an adult, still being no belonging and still feeling like couldn't find support within because I had the same thing with music school too. I couldn't find anyone who wanted to be in band with me, and I ended up starting a music performance club so we could people could meet and create bands.
oh,
No
that's
one
such a cool idea.
and
Yeah,
no one wanted to be in a band with me still, even though I was the president of this club. But
yeah.
at the end of the day, I was still building connections with other people, so I was able to, overcome that. But I still was just like, why doesn't anyone want to play music with me? And yeah, it
Mm,
was, yeah, belonging is a thing that, I mean,
yeah,
I struggle with now too. Like
really deep theme.
yeah, I don't have any physical friends. My only friends are on Threads right now. Like it's
Yeah, it's hard to find those meaningful connections in real life. I think I think part of it too is like I'm longing for like a deeper like level connection, and it's hard to find like people who want to go there. Um, I feel like a lot of us are so busy with our lives that we don't take the time to like go under the surface and really take like make a more meaningful like connection, like a soul level connection, like with friends. And I feel like maybe we're all longing for that, and maybe some of us more than others. And like, I don't know how to like make more of those kind of connections, but I know those are the kind of connections I crave. And I feel like those are the kind of connections that start to create that belonging a little bit at least. But I don't know when I'll feel like I really completely belong. Like, I don't I don't know why I don't feel that feeling of belonging, but um
I think it's easier for some other people because I was able to see that other people were getting belonging in my film school, even in the music school, people starting bands. But like,
yeah,
it's harder for some of us, usually the shy people, people who are more introverted and afraid to let themselves be hurt.
I feel like maybe we're trying to help ourselves belong through our art, like, because like that's what resonates with our souls, and we're like looking for other people who resonate with us too, like who feel our souls and who feel our message, and that creates a little bit of that sense of belonging, of, like they get me, or like they're resonating with this art.
And this is the big reason why, like, I I would lean into the gangs because
Yeah,
if I acted this certain way, I could be belonged, even though I was acting. It wasn't me, but it was like I could actually feel belonging. Um,
uh-huh.
Something that I've been missing. So like the only way for me to belong back in my past, like growing up, was to wear the mask of a thug. Um, but that wasn't me. So at the end of the day, it was hurting me internally. So
Yeah,
when I finally was able to realize how toxic and negative all that stuff was, and I'm like, I'm not even belonging in my own soul because I'm not allowing myself to be myself. So I'm not even giving myself my own belonging. And
yeah,
once I finally found that, became the sensitive man you see before you, then it was hard to find any belonging because all the people in my past were like, you don't belong with us anymore. We you showed your true colors, and but my true colors are beautiful. I feel
yeah.
um, Cyndi Lauper. one of my favorite
I don't
songs.
want to speak on that a little bit,
Yeah.
on that like sensitivity in men. Like, I think that's really beautiful. Like, to me, I see that as strength and like one of the like best qualities that a man can have is like sensitivity. I think like when strength and sensitivity are blended together, it's really beautiful. And I think if more men could know that and like let, you know, be more sensitive to alongside of strength, that would be really beautiful.
It's the reason why I've interviewed so many men on being vulnerable is
Yeah.
showcasing the strength of
Hmm.
sensitivity because I didn't know like I was always told my sensitivity was my biggest weakness until I
Yeah.
found art. Till I found art, and then I was able to like, oh, my sensitivity is what makes my music good, what makes my scripts good, what makes my acting good, in theater specifically, like because I was able to be sensitive on a stage compared to on the screen where I had to be the villain. But
Yeah.
when I finally realized that my sensitivity, which I was always sensitive, I started writing poetry as elementary school was when I started doing poetry, but I would never be able to share it because, sensitivity was looked at as a weakness. But when I
Not like
finally,
that. It's
yeah,
not.
it's it's my biggest strength.
It
And,
is.
and yeah, it's when I was able to realize that, that's what allowed me to finally try to do art because I wasn't allowed to do art for the longest time.
Mhm.
I didn't pick up my guitar until I was 26, and that's when I started teaching myself how to play because I want to put my poetry to music and share it.
Sensitivity is a superpower. It, it can help like break barriers and um sometimes the best thing to do when encountering like hardship too is instead of like sometimes it's necessary to be strong, but sometimes like softening and surrendering is actually like more productive. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it, but like being gentle, like if I'm going through a hard time, if I'm like more gentle with myself and like more gentle with other people, like it helps me relax and actually like find solutions better than if I'm just like, oh, I'm Superwoman, I can do it. Like, which is
Oh.
necessary to be that way sometimes too. But like, I feel like blending both of those things together is like part of how we become who we're meant to be. Like, sometimes we're gonna be like strong and like we're gonna be doing things that feel impossible, but then sometimes we're gonna be like, surrendering.
It's being in tune with your emotions
Yeah.
because being not in tune with your emotions is what led me to like a lot of my first mental health crises. That it would be like I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't I wasn't allowed to cry when I got heartbroken. Um, and like the first time I did and get heartbroken, sixth grade, um, I started crying and it was in front of everybody and everyone circled me and was just like looking at me like I was something like a zoo animal or something like men don't cry and everyone's just like everyone around me had always saw me then after that as I was the weird crybaby who like the too sensitive person. Like that's why I had to change myself to
Yeah.
act crazy to make it seem like no, I was crying because I was crazy. But no, I just never had felt heartbreak before. And it's
Yeah.
I feel like it's a natural human emotion to cry when that happens. But
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't control myself to not cry and just
Yeah.
like everyone surrounded me and I was just crying because it was my first heartbreak. And
Mm-hmm.
everyone surrounding me made me cry more. And then it just made me
Yeah.
angry that like no one's saying, "Are you okay?" Everyone's just like watching me
Everyone,
cry.
No
A-
one felt you,
And
or
ended up being like,
comforted you.
yeah, no, that was the one thing. Like these are some of my friends. Like, why weren't they comfort? But and it ended up
Yeah,
making me say, I'm gonna kill myself if you don't leave me alone. And then no one left me, and then I was just like, I'm gonna kill all of you all. But it was just like the old. I, none of that was meant, but it was just like I didn't know how to get everyone away from me, and then I ended up getting suspended for 7 days
yeah,
because I was crying and I erupted into this, and no one was comforting me, and then I got suspended for it. So then it made me even feel like I was doing stuff for like authority figures were even saying you're wrong. That was my first heartbreak, though.
yeah. Such a raw emotion that I feel like a lot of people can relate to.
I've never broken up with somebody, even though I've been cheated on probably over like 20 something times and been physically abused by women and stuff, but it's just I long for love in a way that isn't very mentally healthy for me, but this is who I am, so I don't it's like that's the one part of me that I've never tried to hide is the fact that all I
Mhm.
want is love, and some of that might have to do with my just wanting sense of belonging since elementary school, just trying to find belonging and yeah.
It is. It does give that sense of belonging. And then when it's lost, when there's heartache, it's like this sense of feeling lost. And I'm very much
Um,
a hopeless romantic, except I think I'm a hopeful one.
I was gonna say that too. I always want to call myself a hopeful romantic, but
But it seems like I'm a hopeless one because I don't open up easy. And um I also, like things haven't worked out for me and um so at a certain point even being a hopeful romantic can feel like being a hopeless romantic, you know, like I don't know, I feel like I take love more seriously since I'm a hopeless romantic. So I'm like more cautious and like less likely to open up because of how seriously I take it. Like, um, you know, um, I'm more likely to like experience love in my head or like in my imagination than in real life. Like there's only been like one time where like I've loved someone and they've like loved me back um in real life, and the rest has just been my dreams or like,
yeah.
hasn't been like real. And I don't want to go back to that life of like before I knew love in real life. Um, like whenever I was just like watching movies or like reading books or like writing poetry. Like I didn't write poetry like that back then. Like something opened up in me this summer to make me start writing stuff like that. But um like I don't know, like my brain lost its train of thought.
Well, maybe I can
um
help you. Um, when I first felt love for the first time, like what that it might not even been love. It was like the first time feeling something that was like here and not here. Um,
mhm.
that was when crying in front of people. Sixth grade, like a girl that I never really spoke to, but we just shared because I was too shy and she was too shy, so we would just like write notes to each other, and like
Yeah.
the love was a bit superficial, wasn't really
Hmm.
love, but it was the first time I felt something inside of me that I was like, this is a feeling that I want to have. This is a feeling that
The best feeling in the world,
Yeah,
really.
it's the best feeling in the world. And I just began chasing that feeling for way too long.
Just chasing butterflies.
Chasing butterflies, chasing someone to actually be able to hold my heart and it, like, because I mean, my heart is so big, it's hard to hold, but I was looking for that person. And then because of that, I kept getting heartbreak
Hmm.
because I was more serious than they were. I was more serious about, you know,
Yeah.
love than they were. I mean, the girl that I asked to prom, um, I was dating for like 2 years.
Hmm.
Week before prom, found out that, well, I called her, like, you know, I, I got her into my prom because she didn't even go to my school. And or a man answered and was like, "Who the fuck are you?" Sorry, my language. Um,
That's okay. I don't mind language.
yeah. This was someone she was dating for 4 years. And the girl that I thought was gonna be the one, I was actually the person she was cheating on her boyfriend with. And that just like, I mean, that crushed me. Um, I mean, go back to freshman year. Before that's my best friend I fell in love with, and me and her were like so close to the point where like, I knew her family loved me and everything. She moved away,
Mhm.
and we kept a long
So
distance for,
hard.
yeah, we kept a long distance relationship. And when I went to go finally see her, um, I gave her a promise ring and was like, I promise you me. Like this is, we're gonna be together.
Hmm.
She was so distant though, and I didn't know why. And then the day after I left and went back home, because she lived in a different state then,
Hmm.
she sent me an email telling me that she threw my ring in the fire and never wanted to speak to me again. Um, which was just like all of my most all the love that I have most shared with somebody, it has been in those type of situations where it just gets thrown away, burnt into fire, didn't actually even exist because someone else actually had their love. And
Hmm.
but I kept chasing it all the way through college and all this stuff until
Makes sense.
I couldn't find it anymore. And I couldn't love myself because I was trying to find love in another person. And if someone else didn't love
Hmm.
me, how could I love myself?
Yeah.
But then it's when in 26 is when I found um, faith, and I started reading the New Testament. And actually I transcribed the New Testament because I was trying to get the wisdom of like all this
Hmm.
stuff. And I was given a bit of a message from God that in order to love myself, I have to love everybody. I can't just because I have a big enough heart to love everybody. I can't just put it all for to one person. And by
Hmm.
doing that, I could open myself up to love myself.
Hmm.
And then I've been good. Well, it's like 8 years that I was celibate. Um, just, you know, been told by my father for the longest time, like, you gotta let love find yourself. You gotta let love find you instead of going chasing it. And I finally listened to him and was like, okay.
But I don't want to wait forever, and I don't want to be like too picky, and I don't know. This is too vulnerable.
No, it's okay. Um, it's a testament to your poetry.
I don't know. Yeah, and my poetry is like weird because it's like love is amazing, and then it's like, oh, like I'm giving up on love. Like, never mind. It's like a very like it's so like hot and cold, you know? And I think it's because I'm in a healing season right now. Like sometimes I feel open and sometimes I don't. And it's because my heart is healing. Like it's really healing right now. Like my heart has been broken and I don't think I felt like the weight of it yet or processed it all. Um, like I have new hopes, I have new feelings, but I also have like the old like memories like sifting through and it's a lot of emotions and a lot of experiences and it almost feels like I'm going through a process of grief right now of just like grieving what I've lost and the life I could have had and trying to make sense of this new life I have now and like I have this feeling of like I have no idea where I'm going because I feel like my whole world has been just shattered to the point of like I don't know where to turn or where to go or where I belong.
I still don't know where I belong.
I guess my solution right now is to keep writing poetry, to keep my heart alive, and to make friends, which is like lots of friends. And because I need community and I can't go back to being alone. I need people right now, and I can't just stay in the house feeling alone. Like I need to open up to people and let people open up to me because that's the whole meaning of life. We're not we're not meant to be alone. And the only like romantic love isn't the only beautiful kind of love, like friendship, community, that's beautiful too. I feel like that's like a healthier way to heal from heartbreak than like jumping right into another like love right away. You know, like maybe I can like be open to it, but I need like some time to just like let myself like make sense of everything, even if it's just a few months, you know, like,
Yeah.
uh, you know, I just need to like let my heart heal. And I don't want to wait forever though, because I know how precious life is. You know, part of me is like, I know I need to like wait, but then part of me is like, well, I want someone with me right now because I don't feel good right now. And I know like love heals me and makes me feel better. Like it does. Like healthy love, not broken-hearted, painful love, but healthy. It feels good to have someone there all the time. It's like sad to be alone at Christmas
Yeah.
and not be held. That's like what all my poetry is basically about is like I write it whenever I want to be held to cope with that feeling. And I write lots of poems about it.
No, I,
And that's probably too
I
vulnerable too.
you just expressed how I've been feeling because I decided to wait and that loneliness began building up even further and further. I mean
Mhm.
at the end of the day, that's even if it's not romantic, just being held by somebody, having a
Yeah,
physical contact with another person, even if it's just a hug, holding, just I long for that so much. I haven't had it in so long. I'm so heavy-hearted already. And I
did talking about that make you feel more heavy-hearted or just
no, I just been so heavy-hearted. So hearing it's
it gives you validation?
I'm not alone. It's so hard to open yourself up against again. So after my senior year of college, I guess it was my senior when I started my RA position as a at the dorms.
Mhm.
Um, since I was a good 10 years older than everybody, my boss wanted me to be part of the freshman RA dorms because I was a lot more mentally intelligent, not mentally, emotionally intelligent than all the other
Yeah.
RAs. Because all of them were like freshmen and sophomores. So I ended
Uh-huh.
up being kind of like the RA. I would call it the RA father because I was It's like, you damn kids. But being older and not connecting with the people on that generation. So that freshman year, when people really didn't, the other RAs didn't know me because we were supposed to be a team, a community.
Hmm.
And I started just being ostracized by all the RAs. Like they would have all these like meetings and all these things, and like I was not invited. I was,
Yeah.
and they were also like very goody two shoes as well. So just my personality and just, being 21, I smoke cigarettes. I would go out and go to the bar and all this stuff because I was allowed to because I was 21. Where
Uh-huh.
um, but just all of these little factors that added to them kind of ostracizing me from the rest of the RA community. And we were like a good group of like
That's funny.
16, and I was the only one never invited to reindeer games and all this stuff. Like my reindeer game song I released, it was about I was Rudolph. I was the one who no one wanted to invite because I had something different about me, which my difference was my age.
I
And
feel that lead
yeah,
up feeling.
and it I got through that first semester because I had residents who actually really connected with me. And my best friends were my residents at that time. E-
Yeah.
and my residents were, all freshmen. But I found a little bit of community within my residents. I found most of my community by just holding karaoke nights, and I'd have all my residents come in, and then I'd get to show them who I really was. I wasn't this professional RA person. I would go out and sing System of a Down and just scream my head off and do all this like stuff that they had never. I was the only RA doing this where I was showing who I actually was instead of being that professional one. And
Yeah.
it it allowed them to actually open their guard down to me. So I ended up becoming friends with some of them. I'd actually hang out with some of them. Then I had to go back to school for an extra semester because of one professor that failed me, even though I was like a 3.8, and then he failed me and it dropped me down to like a 3.6 or some shit. Like
Hmm.
I was almost a 4.0 student, except for A minuses. Like that was my bad grades were A minuses until this one professor, and then I had to retake that class because it was film history, the one class I needed to graduate. So I had to go
Yeah.
back. I had to go back to college for an extra semester. All those residents that I had kind of built community with had gone on. All those
Hmm.
all those RAs still there.
Yeah.
And that semester was some of the most ostracizing ostracizing feelings that I've ever felt because we were supposed to be a team and a community, and yes, I've had, the other stuff before, but it got into a point where like they wouldn't acknowledge me because we had team meetings every week and all this stuff, and then I would speak and no one would just like not acknowledge that I was even saying anything, or like anytime I said something, everyone wanted to um invalidate my feelings and like they started making me feel like I was stupid and like there's a reason why you had to come back an extra year because you're stupid, you shouldn't be a part of this team. Like they basically didn't believe I should be an RA and all this stuff, especially since I was an adult that could do adult things when they couldn't. And they thought that I was an RA material, and it just kept getting to me every time I would try to communicate with them. It was just it kept cutting me further and further, and
Mm.
I lost all of my classmates because they all graduated because it was so I was just taking two classes. One of them was that film history class with well, actually I was able to get a replacement, which was Japanese cinema. um
Mhm.
Everyone in there, no one I've ever met. No one really talked to me, so I was just by myself. And
Yeah.
it in my other class was anthropology class where this was like 200 people in this class, so I could not I had just nobody for that whole semester. And the teammates, the people that were supposed to be my community, didn't want me like part like so I like just never talked to them.
Mhm.
My residents a little bit different than my other residents and in a way where they did not connect or respect me at all. So like I couldn't even find connection with them. So most of my days I was just stuck in this one single dorm room for months and months. Like there had been weeks where well not week but like weekends where I didn't leave my room. I didn't have anybody. Like only thing I had was music and television. And
Mhm.
we got me into such dark points where I started beginning to have the darker thoughts again. I'm beginning to start no one loves me, didn't have family, didn't have friends. I was just alone. I didn't have threads. I wasn't on social media. I wasn't like so it was just me and my thoughts for months and months on end.
Hard to be alone with thoughts.
It led me to start self-harming myself. And my worst moment was actually the week before my graduation. Um, Finally getting out of college, this would have been my 10th year of college. Like I've worked up to this moment and I just wanted someone to celebrate it with, but I couldn't find anyone to celebrate it with. And it started becoming like no one cared that I was graduating, even my family. Well, I messaged my mom being like, let's have, you know, let's have this graduation party. Can you get everyone's addresses so I could send graduation letters to everybody and all this stuff? And and my mom was like, you've been in college too long. No one cares that you're graduating. And just hearing that from my mom just like broke me. And I tried to hang myself. And at that moment, I couldn't go through it. So I just took a razor and I just started slicing my arm up like literally had probably over 40 all along all of my arms to the fact that anytime I wore a long sleeve shirt, I'd just bleed through it. So I'm sitting there at my graduation, and my blood starts running down my hand because it just couldn't, and I'm bleeding through my freaking robes, and I'm sitting there at graduation, a point that should have been a most celebrated point of my life because it took me so long. I'm the first one to even go to college in my family, first one to graduate high school. Like this should have been the proudest moment for my family, but because of what happened that week, I was bleeding literally out of my wrists onto my robes. And it just like, I never got to celebrate my graduation because of just that whole aspect. And sorry, I just trauma dumped on you. I'm
It's
sorry.
really heavy. Sorry you had to go through that.
Kind of put myself through that because of my mind. Like, if I could have been stronger, I wouldn't, and not thought about what other people, But it's just like, from the place that I made it out of, like probably only 10 people in my freaking grade class even graduate from college, let alone to go on to something bigger.
Mhm.
Like there should have been some sort of
Celebration.
and yeah, just validation of like even all the people from my past being like, we thought something wrong of you. We should have actually believed in you instead of treating you like the low life, the stupid person because of my speech impediment and my ADD that I was always treated like I was stupid because of it. Like they should have, I'm on the spectrum too. Like, so I've always been treated like I wouldn't, even by teachers in high school. I always was told I would never amount to nothing. And then when I finally did, I just didn't get no validation or just apologies or just anything. And I know that's still an internal thing that I should not need that, but not having belonging my whole life, I just really wanted that. Yeah, so sorry for
Yeah.
taking it this deep.
Yeah. I hope you can find healing in those areas.
I'm finding it through threads and
Mhm.
like all of this, like I found community finally. Like I hadn't felt belonging until threads, and it was a big turning point in my life because I had no more passion for my art for a while because I didn't
Mhm.
like my art is not for me, it was for other people. It was for
Yeah.
me, my therapy, but I mean, if I'm just making art for my own therapy, there's no way I'm gonna do anything with my life. But the the way that people have received just even this show, I've been able to find um that belonging and that purpose. Like my art is actually finally making purpose, and I'll have my bit of up and down still. I'm still human and I still have mental health problems, but for most of the day, I wake up with a smile, ready to talk to people on threads and ready to communicate, and
Mhm.
knowing I have people to listen. And
Yeah.
when I get into these thoughts, I could reach out and say something on threads, and people will be there for me.
Yeah.
Like you. You were there for me that day, and sorry, that was a little heavy. It was, but I hope you feel honored that you were the first person I told this to.
Yeah. And so it's a lot to find healing, and community can be so healing. Like it's important to like connect and reach out, like
Yeah.
find hope.
Hope is a hard thing to find when your hope has led you down the wrong path. Well, thank you everyone for joining this episode of Being Vulnerable. Thank my special guest. Go follow and support her on Instagram, on Spotify, on Threads, and just go listen to everything that she's doing. Go watch all her videos. She has some really great videos, and go read all her poetry on Threads. It's she speaks the words that my heart would say if they could speak. So, um, and maybe your heart too. We will see you next time on Being Vulnerable.